and it's all buttons, all real physical keys. So they've replaced the touch bar with a full row of full height physical function keys at the top. It's really a shame the touch bar never reached its full potential, and I'll miss the like 2 times I thought it was useful with audio fading shortcuts inside Final Cut Pro or fast forwarding scrubbing through Instagram videos on the desktop. But these buttons really are better, and the whole keyboard is an improvement from previous years too. It's backlit, the keys feel good and travel decently well like their keyboards from 5 years ago. The Touch ID button in the corner works super quickly and reliably, and it's subtle, but the whole keyboard is inset in this black anodized rectangle, and I love it. It's a nice touch. Black keys will definitely still show fingerprints and a little bit of skin oils more than the lighter keyboards out there on other machines, but I'm willing to deal with that. The speakers, absolutely incredible, especially on the 16-inch. Still the biggest, fullest, best speakers I've ever heard in a laptop on the bigger one. And the studio microphones are also now improved, but that brings us to the front of this laptop. So let's talk about the front. So these new displays are, on paper and in real life, pretty incredible. They are 10-bit panels, they're mini LED, HDR, 16:10, almost 4K, high refresh rate displays. I mean, it's just all of the boxes checked. And then there's the notch up top. Okay, so the screens are amazing. It's basically a mini Pro Display XDR, but with even higher pixel density and higher refresh rate. I mean, it doesn't look that different from previous MacBook Pros most of the time you're using it, but it does hit that 1600 nits max brightness while watching HDR content, which is awesome. And the thinner bezels all the way around were long overdue. And underneath the menu bar, I'm also happy that it's the taller 16:10 aspect ratio. And then ProMotion is interesting. So we know this as the adaptive refresh rate. It's not always maxing out here at 120 Hertz. Even when flying around the UI, Macs are already decently smooth at 60, but I can tell this is not going to 120 Hertz all the time. So like scrolling in Safari, for example. Apparently Safari still needs an update to support the highest of this adaptive frame rate, but there are a couple areas where you really notice a higher refresh rate. I mean, moving your mouse around a lot, moving a lot of bigger animations like swiping between spaces, and other big flowy stuff like the genie animation for minimizing. That stuff, I mean, it's awesome. Moving around a Final Cut timeline, that's very smooth too. That's where the higher frame rate is noticeable and the extra smoothness is appreciated. So this isn't the first mini LED display. This isn't the first HDR laptop ever. It's definitely not the first high refresh rate screen in a laptop. But just combining all these things, the 10-bit display, the thinner bezels, all of it, it is a great display. So let's talk about the top-notch design, shall we? There's only a few things up here in the notch. It's the new 1080p webcam, which looks perfectly decent now. Thanks for catching up, Apple. And there's a little ambient light sensor and a little LED light, and that's pretty much it. There's no way the notch needed to be this big for that hardware. I mean, I'll wait for the iFixit teardown, but there's no way you needed this much space. So it's an odd choice, and it's really easy to complain about this when you're not actually using the laptop. But 2 things. One, I think Apple is actually finding this to be like a part of their design language now. Like, this is a recognizable laptop silhouette because of the notch. However we feel about that, it is what it is. But then also, turns out it's okay to put a notch right here in the part of the screen that you really don't notice very much when you're actually using the laptop. The mouse goes underneath it, for those who are wondering, and the software seems to basically treat the screen like there is no notch. Like if you take a screenshot or do a screen recording, it's still drawing the display there with all of its pixels. And anytime you go full screen with anything, it just turns the entire menu bar black, and it looks like the bezel at the top basically gets slightly thicker. And it's very deep black with the mini LED. The notch literally never cuts into any content. Basically, think of it as cutting into the extra display that you actually didn't have before, and they've just shoved the menu bar up there into that extra display. There are some weird quirks when you have an app with enough menu bar items. It runs those things right underneath the notch, and things clearly need to be patched up with a software update, maybe making them scrollable or like adding an expansion button or something like that. So at this point, it's like, people are making the custom apps to totally black out the top part of the display to hide the notch, which, I mean, if you hate it that much, sure, you have that option, but like, I promise you, when you actually start using the laptop and you're in apps and things full screen and never cuts anything off, like you're paying attention to what's on the screen, it disappears even more than it did on the smaller screen of the phones. But that being said, if the next version of this laptop still has a notch this big and doesn't add Face ID, I'll wear socks and sandals for a day, like Linus. Like they gotta be planning on putting it there eventually, right? It almost feels useless to talk about how it feels just spinning around macOS Monterey, because of course it's fine. Like I got the improved notification management, it's got the rounded corners up top, it's got the quick mouse over at the bottom corner to get to quick notes. We get all that, there's nice features, but we're here for the performance. We wanna know if it's actually as great as those graphs Apple suggested at the Apple event. Spoiler alert, they're both really that good. So I've got a couple different specs here. This is the M1 Pro in the 14-inch. I've also got a maxed out 16-inch that I've been testing. So I'll get to the differences between M1 Max and M1 Pro and all that in a second, but just know that, yeah, they are very, very good. So when it comes to performance benchmarks, I feel like everyone's more or less looking for the perfect benchmark out there that will confirm to them that it will work best for their own workflow. Like I said, these are tools. And from what I've seen, it feels like that benchmark result exists for pretty much every use case so far for these. So as far as synthetic benchmarks, it dropped the highest single score Geekbench CPU score I've ever seen from any Mac, and multi-core lined it up right around the maxed out 18-core iMac. I also ran it through Cinebench and it had, again, very impressive single core scores, and here's how the multi-core stacks up. But when I tell you these laptops are next level, I mean that because the real world performance and the real world capabilities of these laptops is dramatically better than they have any business doing. So obviously we know about the way higher memory bandwidth, we know about the way higher number of GPU cores, and I love the 10, 15, 25% improvements that come across the board with all of that stuff. The vertical integration worked, right? But there are parts of this chip that Apple has built with specific purposes in mind, and for those purposes, it's next level. So these laptop chips have a media engine, and there's a ProRes accelerator as part of that. M1 Max has 2 of them. Video professionals, you can see where we're going with this. Working with ProRes at all with these laptops is dramatically better. I think an example was like encoding a video with compressor is 10 times as fast as it was with the Intel MacBook Pros. That's next level. So like I said, these laptops that's why they got me excited. I work with video too. So let's see how it does with Final Cut Pro. So as I mentioned, I did edit the last video, the entire AirPods 3 review, on the 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro in various locations, both around the studio and at home, plugged in and on battery, and it handled it incredibly well, like shockingly well. Keep in mind, this is 8K red code raw footage. It's a mix of low and medium compression shots from the V-Raptor, and I'm able to bend the color and raw data and move all around the timeline and chop everything up pretty quickly and seamlessly without hiccups, just like on the desktop on the Mac Pro. So playback was in high quality instead of high performance, so I'm getting a ton of resolution and really only dropping a couple of frames here and there. Again, just like the Mac Pro. One of my ways to measure if a machine is choking or struggling at all is like how long the delay is between pressing the play button, the space bar, on unrendered footage and when it actually starts to play back. And this delay, as you can see, it's like less than a quarter of a second. That's as good as I've ever seen it in Final Cut. So the only thing that's caused me any concern was that a couple times the audio waveform previews took longer to load when I was pinching and zooming into parts of the timeline. And I suspect that's RAM related. Of course, M1 Max only has 64 gigs of RAM versus the Mac Pro I've edited on has 768 gigs of RAM. So it makes sense that I saw a difference there. But when the edit was finished and it came time to export it, I, of course, just for fun, copied the project across to multiple computers and just did the same export on all of them to see how it went. So the M1 Pro MacBook Pro, the 14-inch, exported the whole thing in 6 minutes and 40 seconds. It's pretty good. The $50,000 28-core Mac Pro did the same thing in 5 minutes and 42 seconds. And then the M1 Max Mac Pro, or MacBook Pro, did it in 4 minutes and 6 seconds. So the MacBook Pro beat the Mac Pro handily at exporting the project. And it's not even like export times really matter all that much at this level, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, but the fact that it beat the Mac Pro already is ridiculous. And I also did that while not plugged in, which doesn't lose any performance on battery, and the battery dropped 2% from 96 to 94% while exporting. So you might have heard there's different performance profiles, and this is true on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. It was interesting playing with these. Most of the time, I just left it on automatic because it would just do its thing, no hiccups at all, and I could edit fine. But when I went to go export just for fun, I turned on the 16 inches high power mode, which in theory should let the chips run full throttle more often, spin up the fans a little bit more, etc. I still never heard the fans ever, but the export time was even faster, 3 minutes and 49 seconds. Jesus. And on top of all that, the plugin suite that I use, Motion VFX, is updating steadily all their stuff to support Apple Silicon, which is great. At this point, honestly, I think it's a no-brainer. The travel iMac is now retired. I can safely edit everything on a laptop. But Final Cut Pro is just one use case. There's plenty of other stuff. If you watch The Verge's review, they did a lot of Adobe stuff. And you can check out their incredible findings with the newest version of After Effects, really finally taking advantage of multi-threaded GPU rendering. They also showed it outperforming the mobile RTX 3080 when editing in Premiere. There are some glowing reviews from music producers and sound designers who love having a whisper-silent computer that can also process way more audio effects and that they can take with them. And Tyler Stallman did a great video reviewing the laptop for photographers where the M1 Max laptop is importing and generating previews, etc., twice as fast as a 2018 MacBook Pro. And he also opens up every single app at once and streams a bunch of ProRes videos all simultaneously next to each other. And you guessed it, it doesn't even blink. Then there's also a great tweet from a staff engineer at Reddit. The machine is cutting build times for their Android app in half. And a little napkin math says that buying a team of them, a bunch of these laptops, would end up saving them a lot more money than they'd spend. Basically, these experiences are of course all dependent on the apps you use as a professional and how optimized they are. All of Apple's apps are the first ones to be updated right out the box, so Final Cut Pro that I use is great, but over time, more of them will continue to be updated and see those gains as well. And I didn't even talk about battery life, but it does all of this high performance stuff while also being incredibly efficient. So you have the fast charging already if you want it, but I found that the 16-inch with the 100 watt-hour battery lasts a bit longer than the 14-inch with a 70 watt-hour battery, and M1 Pro will last a bit longer than M1 Max. Turns out those GPU cores do run a little bit hotter and use more power, but ultimately if you want the longest possible battery life, that would be 16-inch M1 Pro. Nevertheless, they all get around the same battery life I found as the M1 MacBook Pro, which is to say all day, best in class. You can still kill it in like 4 hours if you're just sitting on battery, editing video in high power mode the whole time, then yeah, then you can crush it. But again, the fast charging turns out to be very useful. So you know what, here's the recommendation. If you are a professional that works on your laptop and you're on an older version, or you find yourself reaching the limits of one of these and you're thinking maybe you should try to look at one of these new MacBook Pros, I feel very confident saying, yeah, you could pick one up and be very, very happy. I think the real choice is between M1 Pro and M1 Max and 14-inch and 16-inch. Now for me, I'm going with a 16-inch M1 Max just because I take advantage of the extra GPU cores. And I wish I could go with the 14-inch maxed out, which you can max out to the same exact specs as a 16-inch with maybe just small thermal differences. They'll perform about the same. But I really like having the bigger screen for editing video. So I'm going maxed out big laptop. So then for M1 Pro versus M1 Max. M1 Max is the most powerful, but it does nick a bit of your battery life. So I would upgrade only if you need those extra GPU cores, and you'll know if your apps support it. And I won't even pretend to game on a Mac. Some people do though, and if you do, theoretically, the M1 Max would also handle that better. But like I said from the beginning, this is a tool, and it happens to be a really, really good tool at what it does, and it happens to be next level at a couple specific things that it's been designed and optimized for. So there's gonna be a lot of professionals like me who are really happy with these. There's also gonna be a lot of people who totally don't need this power, but just have a lot of money to spend and just wanna get a nice laptop. And it is a nice laptop, so I wouldn't blame you, that's fine too. But I'm just happy I can finally say that I will be editing videos on a laptop, that's awesome. And yeah, I haven't been able to say something's truly next level in a really long time. But these are. It's one of my favorite products of the year, to be honest. I also really, really can't wait until the Apple Silicon Mac Pro desktop. That thing's going to be wild. Either way, that's been it for the review of the laptops. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Hey, what's up? MKBHD here. Okay, so I'm in the last stages of my MacBook Pro review. A lot of you have been asking where it is. I'm not rushing it. It is not early, so sorry about that. But my final bits of testing include editing a full MKBHD video shot in Red Code RAW on the 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro. That's this video. So if you're seeing this, then that means at some point I got through that whole process. So hopefully that went well. If it didn't go well, then check my Twitter.
Keep absolutely still. This vision's based on movement.
So, you have a James Bond movie for me? Yes, sir, I do. So James Bond is on a secret spy mission, right? Oh, yeah, he's always doing that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, he does that a ton. So much, so many times he's done that. Definitely. So he needs to catch this assassin bad guy, right? And he stole a list of all the undercover agents that MI6 has around the world. Oh, they just keep all those names on a single list then? Yeah, they just keep that all on one big list where if you get one laptop, you get the whole thing. Wow, well, interesting to learn about the spy world best practices, you know. And so James Bond ends up getting shot a couple of times by this bad guy on this train, and this other agent has to take this super difficult shot in order to kill the bad guy. Oh my god. So she takes the shot, but she hits Bond, and he falls off this massive bridge from a height where the fall alone would kill him. What? Then his unconscious body shoots down a waterfall. He's just sinking and bleeding from multiple bullet wounds. What is going on? So, you know, there's like no way he could have survived that, right? Yeah, I mean, for sure. But then again, I mean, you wouldn't kill James Bond off in the very first scene, so, you know, I'm super invested to see how he survived that. Yeah, for sure. So anyway, later James Bond is kind of just hanging out, chilling, you know, kind of retired. Wait, how did he get out of the situation where he was unconscious and bleeding and underwater? Well, we're gonna have this amazing opening title sequence, right? With music from Adele, right? So, he figured something out while that was happening, I imagine. But how? Listen, sir, there is an Adele music video taking up the screen for several minutes, so we can't know what's going on behind there, you know? Wow, well, okay, all right. So anyway, after about a year of just hanging out, MI6 blows up and Bond hears about it, and also that somebody's mad at M. Uh-oh, she's from the other movies. So he goes back to London like, hey, what's up? I'm back. Don't worry about how. And so what does he do to help? Well, he pulls some bullet fragments out of his body from where the bad guy shot him, and he has MI6 analyze them. Okay. And it turns out this is a super special kind of bullet that's only used by like 3 people around the world. Oh, wow. Well, thank God the professional assassin used bullets that can be specifically traced back to him. Yeah, maybe that's something a professional assassin would do. So Bond gets to this guy and he kills him. Oh man, so he doesn't have a lead anymore? Well, actually, this guy had a super secret assassin poker chip on him, so that leads Bond to a casino. Jeez, that guy loved leaving breadcrumbs. Sure seems that way. So Bond goes to this casino along with that other agent, and during the mission, he kind of plops his earpiece into her drink. Well, why would he do that in the middle of a mission? Cut off communication. Because how cool is that? It's pretty cool. Anyway, so then Bond meets this woman who's like a prisoner, kind of, and she leads him to the bad guy of the movie, this guy named Silva. And how does that go? Well, see, Silva forces Bond at gunpoint to shoot a glass off of this lady's head. Oh. But he misses, so Silva shoots her right in the face. Oh my god, well, there was nothing Bond could have done, you know? He had a gun pointed at him. That's right, exactly. So then Bond fights his way out of the situation, and a bunch of helicopters show up. He couldn't have done that like a couple seconds earlier so that woman wasn't shot in the face? Nope. Oh, okay. So they put Silva in a glass cage, which is what you do when you catch a villain halfway through the movie. That does seem to be standard procedure. Yeah, and just like any villain captured halfway through the movie, he wanted to be captured. It was part of his plan. Oh, he did? So what's his plan? Well, see, Q plugs Silva's computer into the MI6 computer mainframe, which hacks it and sets Silva free. The tech expert just connects a bad guy's computer into the secret spy computer network. He does, yeah. So that opens Silva's cage up, and he takes out 2 guards and escapes through the tunnels. Okay. So Bond starts chasing Silva, but this guy has this whole thing planned out to a T. He has some of his men hand him a cop disguise in the subway. How? And after this super long chase, Bond catches up to Silva and starts shooting at him, but Silva's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, why would he stop? Oh, I just told you. Silva said, whoa, 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 whoa. I guess that's convincing. So then it turns out Silva had planned this whole thing too, and a big train crashes right through the tunnel right at that moment. What? And then M is at this hearing thing, which was also part of Silva's plan, so he bursts in with a gun and he misses. He doesn't manage to hit her. Okay, what's wrong? What's up? I mean, that just sounds like a super convoluted plan based on things he couldn't possibly know or time. Don't know what you're talking about. Well, I mean, what if Q hadn't plugged in the laptop? Or what if he plugged it in like 45 minutes later? Well, yeah. If Q had to go to the bathroom, the plan wouldn't have worked. Yeah, but no, it was all planned. He knew that Q had already pooped that day or was going to poop later. Yeah. And if at the end the plan was to just burst into M's hearing, why not just do that part? Like, why do all the other stuff? Why get captured? Well, see, he wanted to know where M's hearing was. That's public information, though, I think. Listen, sir, the thing is, it's gonna be a very cool sequence, so I'm gonna need you to get all the way off my back about it. Oh, I didn't realize it was gonna be cool. Okay, let me get off of that thing. Okay, thanks. So now Bond has to bring M to safety, and he has to assume that all the MI6 channels are compromised. So what does he do? Well, he brings her to his childhood home in Scotland and has Q lure Silva there. So do Bond and M go with a bunch of people kind of off-grid with a bunch of guns too? Nah, it's just the two of them, and Bond says there are some old hunting rifles there they can use. So his plan to protect M is to bring just the two of them to an old house in Scotland and use a couple of hunting rifles and lure a supervillain over to them. That's what we're going with. Also turns out all the rifles were sold except for one. Wow, so what do they do? Well, sir, have you seen Home Alone? Yeah, so... that. They do Home Alone? They do Home Alone, sir. They set up a bunch of traps that are just as deadly as the ones Kevin McAllister set up. Oh, Kevin McAllister murder machines are tight. So then Silva sends a bunch of men into the house and the Home Alone traps work on them. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. And then Silva shows up in a helicopter and shoots the whole place up from the sky. Feels like he could have led with that. Maybe. So then M is gonna get shot, so her and the groundskeeper escape through a secret tunnel that leads them out into a super dark field. Oh, nice. Very sneaky. Gonna be hard for Silva to find them now. Actually, it's gonna be super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Oh, really? Yeah, cause see, they're walking through the dark field with a flashlight, so Silva's like, oh, there they are. Okay. Oh. So then Bond manages to kill Silva, but M dies too. Very sad. And so that's about it. What do you think? Oh, it sounds like a pretty good time, you know? But people didn't really like the last movie, Quantum of Solace, and it didn't make a ton of money. Yeah. So I'm just kind of like, you know, are people really gonna come see another Daniel Craig James Bond movie? Well, maybe we could try spending like $100 million on marketing. Oh yeah, that might work. Let's try that. Hi everybody, Ryan here. Hope you enjoyed that pitch meeting. Also, if you're into cars and vehicles and automobiles and other synonyms for car, be sure to check out our friends over at the Hot Cars channel. They've got you covered for all the latest auto news, informative reviews, and fun featurettes on the world of cars, pickup trucks, and motorcycles. Okay, bye now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you around.
This week's Honest Trailer is brought to you by D&D Beyond. D&D is for everyone. D&D Beyond makes it easy to play. Register for free at dndbeyond.com to start your adventure. From the studio, you know the one. There's only like 2 of them left now anyways. Comes a series based on silly comic books, like what if Iron Man fought King Arthur? Or what if Wolverine was a vampire that dares to Iron Man fought King Arthur? Or what if Wolverine was a vampire that dares to imagine something even more ridiculous? What if MCU writers could try something new? But not like new, just a slight remix of some old favorites. Let's not go too crazy here. Marvel's What If. Enjoy some wild animated experiments that stay true to the MCU by having no real beginning or end, no real message to get behind, and every character, from the most hardened warrior to the most powerful cosmic being, speaks like an AI barfing out Chandler Bing dialogue.
I simply abhor drama.
Your outfit would suggest otherwise.
Guys?
It would suggest otherwise.
Guys? I'm covered in Sharon.
Do you guys just not have horror movies in Wakanda?
We don't need them. We have American reality shows.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Right now, you're running at an 8, and I need you to take it down to a 4.
Your team building instincts need work.
Yeah. Tell it to HR.
Okay, I don't sound like that. That is so not true.
That happened.
Meet the Watcher, the other extremely powerful comics character who swore never to intervene in human affairs that we're meeting this fall. He's a messy who lives for drama, and this Jeffrey Wright-shaped planetarium will guide you through alternate timelines, like what if England had a pop culture icon who wasn't a sociopath? What if every franchise was better without Chris Pratt? What if all the Avengers died and also Agent Coulson was a 5 on the Kinsey scale?
He's a Caucasian male, mid-20s, with really great hair. It's an accurate description. He's gorgeous. Steve. I heart Steve. Even while rotting, he smells like lavender.
What if the universe had it out for Rachel McAdams? You know, Dr. What's-Her-Face? What if she was the key to all of this? Any interest? What if zombies? You guys still like zombies, right? Sorta? Okay, how about this one? What if Killmonger, the most sympathetic villain in the entire MCU, was just destined to become evil? Like, no matter what, someone should have killed him in his crib. What do you mean this isn't working for you? Fine, we'll do it your way. What if Ultron stole Vision and chopped off Thanos' arm and ate the universe and was like, "Rawr, I'm gonna eat you too!" And the Watcher had to be like, "Not on my watch!" And they start punching, and Avengers fly out, and the robots get hit with the shields again. Okay, you good? Did you little content piggies get what you came for? Come on, why are you crying? Oh, right, this is a show for kids. I forget that sometimes. Kick back and listen to find out which of your favorite actors needed to pick up an extra check during COVID.
Don't play the fool with me, Fury.
Michael Douglas? Really? Then get genuinely choked up when you realize you're hearing Chadwick Boseman do T'Challa for the last time.
It doesn't feel over.
And finally, wonder what Dave Bautista did that caused Disney not to even reach out. All right, principles. But regardless, thrill as a bunch of million-dollar voices emerge from heroes who look like the caricatures you pay $10 for at a town fair. Because while Disney's built its entire brand on top-quality animation, everyone deserves a break now and then. It's been a tough year. Are we sure they didn't buy DreamWorks too? You know what's hot right now? The multiverse. And after Endgame helped set up the idea of the multiverse, and WandaVision teased the possibilities of the multiverse, and Loki explained the scope of the multiverse, and Doctor Strange 2 gives us multiverse madness, what if we'll drive the message of the multiverse home even further? We're all one of an infinite number of variants going through the same Our struggle seen only by a voyeuristic space walnut who could save us from our fates at any time but won't. Wow, there had to be an easier way than killing free will to explain why Terrence Howard can't play Rhodey anymore or whatever. He thinks 1 × 1 is 2. So if you want to see your favorite Marvel characters and exciting new stories that stretch the imagination, buy a comic book. But if you want more of the things you already liked, combined with other things you already liked, resulting in something slightly less than the sum of its parts, well, what if there was nothing else to watch until Eternals comes out? Wow, look at him stand there. Can't wait. Starring. I only watch the multiverse for the articles. You Captain America. The cat is the Pratt. Someone, please take this man's driver's license. Wow, look at him stand there. Can't wait. Starring. I only watch the multiverse for the articles. You Captain America. The cat is the Pratt. Someone, please take this man's driver's license. Glove, Death, and Robots. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Scarlett Johansson. Gundam Wang. Futurama did it. Asgardian Pie. Precario. Hentai Squid. And
this is what happens when you mess with a mouse, Robert.
You have to die.
Oh, I'm gonna bond. I'm definitely gonna bond.
But why? Male ducks have corkscrew penises. Just putting that out there.
I now pronounce you Darcy and a duck.
This week's Honest Trailer is brought to you by D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond makes
Bye.